What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today, we're going to talk about Emperor Straw Hat Luffy and his crew. People have been putting a lot of respect on Luffy's name in the past few chapters. He is being recognized as a Yonko, as an emperor by admirals, by gods knights, you name it. People are knowing his name. But how does Luffy's crew stack up as an emperor's crew compared to some of the others? I made a spreadsheet to compare and contrast and see how well he actually stacks up. I'm gonna be honest, he doesn't. But let's run through the list. I have 10 people from each crew. We're gonna be using Luffy's crew, Kaido's crew, Big Mom's crew, and Whitebeard's crew as metrics. Now, the reasons I didn't include Shanks, Buggy, or Blackbeard is because those are relatively unknowns or just really weird to power scale. Buggy's is all over the place. We have no idea what Shanks or any of his people do. And Blackbeard, honestly, I think they're all bums, but you know, it's neither here nor there. So let's start with the captains. We have Luffy, Kaido, Big Mom, and Whitebeard. And I think this one goes to Kaido easily. The only reason I'm not giving it to Whitebeard is because of a stamina issue. I look at Kaido as basically having a 10 in every stat. Every stat you can think of, Kaido has a 10 in that. And with Whitebeard, I think stamina is the only thing keeping him from being the top one. I think because of his old age, that holds him down. Physically, as far as like being able to dish out damage, I would still say Whitebeard is probably top one. But just the oldness, the sickness, the stamina, that kind of stuff holds him back. And then we have Big Mom and Luffy. And this makes sense because Luffy is brand new emperor. Like, he's just now stepping foot in the game. And yes, he's strong. And yes, I know he technically beat Kaido, but we know that there's a lot to that. And it wasn't just Luffy versus Kaido. There's a lot to that. If they were to go in a 1v1 again, clean, no interruptions, nothing else, I have Kaido coming out on top of that. I think it's a lot closer with probably Big Mom and Whitebeard, but I would still put them above Luffy because they're just better fighters. They're just more experienced. They have, I mean, Big Mom has a duffel bag of abilities. And I know Luffy with Gear 5 is insane, but we know there's limits to that. And none of these other characters are going to give Luffy, you know, his 10-minute food break in between each bout of Gear 5. Now let's look at the Vice Captains, the number 2s, the YC1s. How do they stack up? I got Zoro, King, Katakuri, and Marco. And for this, another contentious argument, I have Katakuri at the top. I think that compared to the other ones, Katakuri has the best stats across the board. When it comes to Zoro, yes, he is an overwhelming force. He has all kinds of hockey feats. I understand that he stands atop the world right now as one of the strongest characters. I don't see how Zoro combats Future Sight. I've yet to see a feat where Zoro is combating Future Sight. Because with King, he was having issues with King's speed. He was having issues landing hits on King. Katakuri can see 5 seconds into the future. Katakuri was dodging Gear 4 Snake Man Luffy. I haven't seen anything that Zoro's done that matches the attack speed of Gear 4 Snake Man Luffy, which Katakuri is still able to react to. Once Zoro hits that mark, yeah, I'll give it to him. Until then, I can't. But I have him above King, and I think Marco just doesn't have the DC to really match the other three. I think Marco has like longevity, his power, his regen. He can last in a fight. I just don't see him dishing out as much damage as the other three. Next up are YC2s. We got Sanji, Queen, Smoothie, and Ace. And for this, I have Ace on top. Might be a weird take, but I think that Ace beats the rest of these pretty handily. So we know Sanji has observation, armament, hockey. I believe we know that Queen has it. I don't think we've ever seen Smoothie use it or get confirmation that she has it. Maybe it's in a River card. I'm going to say that they all have hockey. So hitting Ace isn't really a issue for them because they should all be able to do that. I think DC wise, Ace is still putting out the most damage. And even though he has a crazy hacks ability, we have to remember that Ace is also a physical monster. We have Ace fighting with Jinbei 5 days straight and technically winning that fight and then going on to fight Whitebeard after that. We have Ace fighting against Blackbeard, and although he did lose that fight, he did put up a good fight. And I'm not saying that, I would imagine that these here are a bit closer in strength than maybe some of the other ones. So I'm not saying that it's a complete wipe. I don't think that anybody is doing enough damage here to just KO purely damage. Like, so say Sanji has armament hockey and he's like lighting up Ace with kicks. One, fire is not going to do a whole lot. So that whole like gimmick of Sanji doesn't really do anything to Ace. It's mostly just the physical DC, and Sanji has good physicals, but I don't think it'd be enough to put Ace down. As we all know, Queen's an idiot, so he's probably going to do something stupid and get himself beat up, but also I don't think he has a really solid way to deal with Ace. He has a bunch of gadgets and gizmos, but I don't think it's really going to be all that impressive, and Smoothie has virtually no feats whatsoever. And then we got the YC4s, and or kind of this is where we'll start breaking down into just people in the crew. We're no longer in like the really heavy commander area, although I think for Whitebeard they're all listed as commanders, but their strength really drops. But we got Jinbei, Jack, Cracker, Jozu. So I have Jozu on the top of this because this particular field right here is very endurance heavy. That's what a lot of these people in here kind of capitalize on, is just being really endurant, really durable. And that's why Cracker kind of sits towards the back, even though he can supply the infinite biscuits. I think that endurance wise, if he gets hit, he's out. Jozu has the durability, endurance, and speed to combat all these other characters. Jozu was landing hits on Crocodile, on Aokiji. He was clearing, he's able to tank hits from Mihawk. Like he can take the hits that anybody here is dishing out. Jack is also a durable monster. He's a tank. He's going to take a lot of damage. He is not very fast. I think that's essentially his downfall. He's got a lot of damage, got a lot of endurance and durability. He's not moving fast. However, I don't think Cracker or Jinbei are doing enough damage to Jack to take him out before he takes them out. I have Cracker above Jinbei, and yes, I know that Jinbei with water kind of counters the biscuit soldiers. I think I would say that's a very situational basis. We have to get Jinbei in water for that to be super effective. Otherwise, he's just fighting a bunch of biscuit soldiers, and I would say he gets overwhelmed by numbers before he actually hits Cracker. Next, Frankie, Sasaki, Snack, and Thatch. So this is a funny one because I think 3 of these characters are kind of off-screen fodder. Like Sasaki technically got beat on screen, but I think Denjiro ended up tying him to a tree off screen. Snack was off screen like 2-3 times, and then Thatch got off screen by Blackbeard. So they honestly don't have great feats. And as we go further down this kind of like commander tier, you're going to see a heavy drop off in ability for, I would say, most of these crews. The only one who honestly keeps a strong, durable base is Kaido's, which makes sense because that's the kind of crew Kaido wanted. But for this, I have Frankie on top. Frankie's out here duking it out with Vice Admirals now. One-shotting some of them, apparently. Like, he has the strength, the durability feats. We know he's taking out Sasaki. I don't think Sasaki's all that impressive. I think Sasaki has the fruit buff where he's got the zone durability. Honestly, I think that's all there really is to Sasaki. Snack doesn't really seem to have any kind of feats, but I mean, I guess he got less low diff than Thatch did, who just got stabbed in the back. Thatch, I think we have no real feats. It's hard to put some of these characters in here because, of course, they don't really have a lot of feats, but I mean, honestly, I think putting Thatch in here is better than putting like Curiel in here, who's just a dude with a cannon. Essentially, it ends up the same way. They're still going to be in 4th because they're not that impressive. Next up, we have Brooke, Who's Who, Oven, and Vista. For this, I have Vista at the top just because he was able to clash with Mihawk. I know, as controversial as that is, I think that is a solid feat. And he is a very well-known swordsman. Like, people know who Vista is in the world. Followed by Oven. I think Oven his fruit power is very, very versatile. Being able to heat up an entire sea to being able to heat things up by looking at them, he's got a lot of coverage on what he can and can't do. I think most of his flaws kind of just lie in his personality and his arrogance. Outside of that, power-wise, he's pretty set. And I have him above Who's Who just because I think Who's Who is kind of a cheap Rokushiki gimmick. And Oven can take hits, so it's not like he's going to go down from any of the Fang attacks or anything like that. I think Oven is taking Who's hits and countering with some heat that I don't know if Who's Who can really tangle with. And Brooke's last here because it's a hard fight for Brooke. I think at this point, all of the other commanders are just outclassing Brooke. He's got speed. He's got pretty interesting abilities. I just don't think they do enough to put anybody else down. Like, Brooke is a really good form of utility in a fight. He is not a solid solo fighter 1v1. I think people are often going to outscale him. Next, we got Chopper, Page 1, Daifuku, and Flamenco. Now, again, and it's mostly Whitebeard's crew. I'm gonna be honest, it's Whitebeard's crew that's really bringing down the average. But for this, I have Page 1 on top because he has the zone durability. I think he covers a lot of ground. He has enough strength to deal with Daifuku, who is mostly a devil fruit merchant. All he does is stand there and rub his stomach. Now, be it, his genie does have a lot of ability to it, a lot of utility to it. I think that Page 1 would eventually be able to overcome that. I mean, Page 1 is taking hits from Gear 3rd Luffy, and he's, albeit, losing some blood, he's still able to keep his senses around. I think that Page 1 can take any hit that Daifuku's going to hit him with. And then we have Chopper. I think Chopper's biggest issue here is that he doesn't have super incredible combat feats or experience. So when it comes to fighting people like Page 1 and Daifuku, I think he has a solid chance of beating Daifuku. I think it probably leans more in Daifuku's favor. I think he could beat him. And I think he does beat Flamenco because Flamenco just has the pocket dimension of a giant hammer. And I don't know if that's super impressive. Next up, Robin, Black Maria, Perospero, and Rakuyo. Now, again, Whitebeard. Yeah, you hurt me a little bit. You had an okay start. It wasn't really a strong start. An okay start, but it's really going downhill from here. And for Whitebeard, I avoided using allies. I wanted to use specifically like the main crew. So that's why you're not seeing people like Orange Jr. or Whitey Bay, who might be a bit more efficient as far as fighters, but they're allies and not like fully in the crew. So that's the only reason why I didn't include them. For this, we have Robin on top, then Perospero, Black Maria, and then Rakuyu. I think Robin has enough ability to take care. Well, we know she can take care of Black Maria. Perospero's biggest gimmick is kind of the candy. I think Robin can fight Perospero from a distance and do enough damage to where he can't really do anything back. I think the only thing we'd have to look out for is if he can candyfy her like on contact and it goes back to her. Because like if she puts her arm on him and he candyfies it, is her arm on her actual body candyfied too, or is it just the one that's on him? That would be the only thing I'd be like, he might have a chance. Otherwise, I'm taking Robin in this. And I have Black Maria lower than Perospero because I think Black Maria is kind of a trickster type fighter. Like she wants to lure you in a trap before she's able to really do anything. I think Perospero is, I'm not going to say he's incredibly smart. I think he'd be able to handle that. And I think he'd be able to counter some of her abilities with the way his candy fruit works. I think he has the ability. And then Rakuyu is here. Next, Usopp, X-Drake, Tamago, Izo. Another weird field. This is where Big Mom's crew starts getting a little I had to throw Tamago in there. Although I don't think Tamago is a bad fighter. I think he's just not the strongest. X-Drake takes this. He has the Zoan hacks. He's a supernova. He has like actual shown combat ability that exceeds everyone else here. Tamago is mainly in this spot because of his fruit that basically gives him redos over and over again. I don't know if we have a defined limit of that, but basically he takes damage, he dies, he comes back. And I don't know if Izo or Usopp are really doing anything about that. I have Izo over Usopp because I think as far as Izo goes, he was able to actually kill a CP0 agent, which I consider a solid feat as compared to Usopp, who might be able to outshoot him distance-wise, land the perfect shot. I don't know if Usopp has a kill shot, though. And then finally, Nami, Ulti, Amande, and Namer. Obviously, this one, Ulti takes it. She outclasses everyone here in strength, speed, in pretty much every field. She's taken them out. no issue. I have Amande next because I don't think we really have a lot of feats for Namor, but being as a fisherman, he's probably got some inherent speed, or at least water-based speed that he can take care of. I think Amande just seems like she carries herself well in battle, so I can see her outclassing Namor and Nami. And Nami is mostly, again, utility. Nami's a lot like Brooke, where she is utility. If she takes a hit, if she gets caught, she's done. Until that point, she's throwing things out there. She's keeping people busy. I would say she might have a good chance of putting down like the likes of Namor and Amande, but again, if they catch her once, it's wraps. So what the totals end up being is that the Straw Hat Pirates have 23 points, Beast Pirates have 34, Big Mom Pirates 27, Whitebeard Pirates 26. So Kaido's are the strongest, followed by Big Mom, followed by Whitebeard, followed by Luffy. And I think that's indicative of, one, how they built their crews, because we know Kaido builds based off strength, so it makes sense that he's the strongest. Big Mom builds off of family, so it's more or less the genes of her family that are carrying. Whitebeard built off of sons, so it's like he kind of just brought anybody in there, which is why it's so kind of like splayed out, because he wasn't looking for strength and he wasn't breeding for like a family. He was just like, hey, you want to join? Hop on. And then we obviously know that Luffy has all his friends here. So it's very weighted towards the top for some of these crews. I think Luffy's crew is shaping up to be a lot like Whitebeard's, and from what we were being told, a lot like Shanks, where it's kind of the upper part of the crew that handles the strength, the carrying. Everyone else is just along for the ride. The problem that presents is that when going against other Yonko crews, we kind of end up in this spot where we can't really do anything. Because, for example, Luffy's crew versus the Beast Pirates. We had Luffy and Kaido, we had Zoro and King, Sanji Queen. For Jack, we had both Inuarashi and Nekomamushi. So we had two people that had to take care of Jack. Sasaki, we had Frankie. Page 1, we had Usopp and we had Nami, but neither of them were able to really put down Page 1 or Ulti. We had to get Big Mom involved, which is an entirely other subset of strength. If Big Mom wasn't there, those two go down easily, and then now we have Ulti and Page 1 who are going to fight the other members of the crew. Robin was able to take down Black Maria, but I think ultimately what would happen is that once Robin takes down Black Maria, she has to deal with Ulti and Page 1. So it's like the upper parts of the crew are more comparable. I think as we go down, we get a little bit weaker. I would say we definitely need some upgrades in our crew. We need Usopp to set up his hockey. That needs to be running. We need Robin to have armament hockey. We need that desperately. And I would say we need Chopper to have armament hockey. If we can get some armament hockey laid out across the board here, we would be doing so much better as a crew. Because if you look at the Beast Pirates, I think everyone on the Beast Pirates that was in this list, that was top 10, can all use, at the very least, armament hockey. We know others had observation as well, but at the very least, they can use armament hockey. Look at the Big Mom Pirates. It's a little less weighed in the ways of hockey, but you have Katakuri who kind of like overweighs it for some of these characters. But even with the Cracker had crazy armament hockey. The point where Luffy was like, this is stronger than what I faced so far, and he just got finished fighting Doflamingo. When it gets to Whitebeard, it's more about devil fruits than it is about hockey, to be honest, which is another reason why I think he kind of falls down a little bit as far as like the strength of a crew. But that is the ultimate list. I will include a link to the spreadsheet down below if you want to do your own. Maybe adjust the way the point system works, maybe adjust who's where. It's entirely up to you. Let me know if you agree, disagree in the comments down below. I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.